I want to tell you about the best vacation. I almost didn't survive. Last October, I decided I needed a break. My job had been grinding me down for months. My apartment felt smaller every day, and honestly, I just needed to breathe. So I did what everyone does. I opened a rental app, filtered by secluded, nature views, and fireplace. And within 20 minutes, I'd booked a week at a little cabin called the Miller Roadhouse in rural Vermont. The listing was beautiful. Exposed wood beams, a wraparound porch, a stone fireplace you could practically step into. The host, a man named Gerald Holt, had a 4.9 rating with over 200 reviews. Every single one said something like magical or the most peaceful week of my life. I paid the deposit without a second thought. I should have read closer. I arrived on a Friday evening, just as the sun was dropping behind the tree line. The GPS had taken me off the main road about 6 miles back, down a dirt track, barely wide enough for my car. No signal. No other houses in sight. Just pines on both sides and the crunch of gravel under my tires. The house was exactly like the photos, charming, quiet, surrounded by the kind of darkness that only exists when you're truly far from other people. Gerald had left a key under the welcome mat and a handwritten note on the kitchen counter. It said, "Welcome. Help yourself to anything in the pantry. One rule, do not go into the basement after dark. The pipes are old, and it can be disorienting down there at night. Have a wonderful stay." I laughed when I read it. I actually laughed. I made myself dinner, lit the fireplace, and fell asleep on the couch by 9. Best sleep I'd had in months. That was night 1. Night 2 was different. I woke up at 2:47 a.m. I know the exact time because I checked my phone to a sound coming from below the floorboards. A slow, rhythmic knock. Thud, thud, thud. I lay completely still, heart pounding, telling myself it was the pipes, old pipes, like Gerald said, expanding in the cold, completely normal. Then it stopped. And something worse started. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, moving in a circle directly beneath my bedroom. I didn't sleep again until sunrise. In the daylight, I convinced myself I'd imagined it. I went for a walk, made coffee, and even started writing in a journal I'd brought. By afternoon, I was almost relaxed again, but I couldn't stop thinking about the note. Do not go into the basement after dark. Not. The basement is locked. Not. There's nothing down there. Just don't go after dark. At 3 p.m., full daylight, sun still high, I opened the basement door. The stairs were old wood, steep, and they creaked with every step. The basement itself was unfinished. Bare concrete walls, a single hanging bulb, a rusted furnace in the corner. And on the far wall, written in what I can only describe as frantic, desperate handwriting scratched directly into the concrete, letter by letter, were 2 words. He watches. Below that, dozens of tally marks, like someone had been counting days. My body went cold. I counted the tallies. 41. I went back upstairs and I tried to call Gerald. No signal. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the kitchen with every light on and a kitchen knife on the table, which I immediately recognized as useless, but couldn't help doing anyway. At 1 a.m., the footsteps started again. But this time, they weren't in the basement. They were on the porch. I watched the front window, and I saw, just for a second, lit by the porch light, a silhouette, tall, standing completely still, facing the door. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. And then I heard a voice, low and scratchy, right up against the door. Gerald said I could stay here too. Something happened to me in that moment. The fear didn't go away, but it moved somewhere, underneath the anger that replaced it. I am not going to be a victim in someone else's game. I grabbed my phone and sprinted upstairs to the one spot in the house where I'd gotten half a bar of signal near the skylight window. I dialed 911. The call dropped twice. On the third try, it connected. I was whispering, barely breathing, telling them the address. The dispatcher kept me on the line, She was calm. She told me help was coming. She told me to stay upstairs, barricade the door, and do not open it for anyone except law enforcement, identifying themselves clearly. I pushed the dresser against the bedroom door and sat in the corner with my phone dying at 8%. The police arrived in 22 minutes. It felt like 22 years. They found him in the basement. A man named Dale Pruitt, 58 years old, a drifter who had apparently been squatting in the homes Gerald rented out between bookings for nearly 3 years. Gerald had no idea. Nobody had any idea, because the reviews only came in during stays. And Dale was careful. He'd leave before guests arrived, come back after they left. Except this time, he'd miscounted the nights. Or maybe he just got bold. The tally marks on the wall, those were his days. He'd been counting how many times he'd gotten away with it. They arrested him without a struggle. He was cold, underfed, and, according to the officers, seemed almost relieved to be caught. Gerald called me the next morning, horrified, offering a full refund and a genuine apology that I believe was sincere. He had the house swept by professionals, the basement properly secured, and, from what I've seen, he eventually closed the listing entirely. I drove home that Saturday morning with all the windows down and the radio loud. People ask me if I still rent vacation homes. I do, actually, but I read every review now. Not just the good ones. I scroll all the way to the bottom, to the ones people leave when something felt off, but they couldn't explain why. That strange review that says lovely place. But we kept hearing noises at night. Probably just wildlife. Probably. And one more thing I always do now. The very first thing when I walk into any new rental, I find the basement door, and I check if it's locked from the inside. If you've had an experience at a vacation rental that left you unsettled, drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this is your first time here, welcome. You might want to leave the lights on.